Hello, and welcome to the Diving Deeper into Snagit Get Faster with Snagit webinar. In today's webinar, we're going to build a little bit on the previous webinars, getting started with Snagit, and go over some basic tips on how you can get faster and more efficient with Snagit. For today's demonstration, we will be using Snagit 2020 on a PC, but if you have older versions or you're working on a Mac, that's okay. We'll just try to call out any differences as we come across them. Following the presentation, we will save some time for Q&A, but before we get into all that, I have some housekeeping items we want to get through. Now that we have that out of the way, I want to introduce you all to Jason Valad. Jason, hello.
Hey Ryan, and welcome to everyone joining us for this Get Faster with Snagit session.
Jason is a ATD Credential Master Trainer, and he is part of our customer education team. So he works day to day with our customers, making sure they are up to speed and efficient with Snagit and Camtasia. So he is really the perfect person to take us through Snagit today. Jason, I'm going to hand it over to you. I believe you were going to get us started with a couple of quick poll questions to learn more about our audience.
Great. All right, so today's session, and I apologize, just like Ryan said, there's a phone ringing in the background, and that's at my house. We're going to talk today about getting faster with Snagit, and there's two main headings I'm going to go over today. One is repetitive capture tasks within Snagit, how to get faster by setting up some repetitive capture styles for you. And then the second thing we're going to go over is keeping track of your captures and maybe working with our projects and on the trays and in the library. So the first thing we're going to talk about is capturing the same size area and look for consistent images. This actually comes up quite often when people are looking to capture a specific region of their screen. Maybe they've got some sort of on-screen diagnostic that they want to capture on a regular basis, or they want to capture the same region for other reasons. Like for me, I'm on a Windows machine. If I hit my Windows key, I expose my Windows menu, and maybe I want to capture this over time to see how things change as I add and remove various programs. Well, the way you would do that is actually underneath the image tab. Most people don't go this deep into Snagit, but you can make changes right from the capture window to the style of capture you want to make. Right here, there is a region selection, as well as all the other ones, windowed, full screen, grab text, and so on and so forth. But right next to the selection type is a gear icon. If you click on the gear icon, you can actually choose to select the region at capture, which is a typical Snagit workflow where you hit the capture button and you use your crosshairs to click and drag over an area, or you can choose a fixed region, which we're going to click here. And you can either set the size of it, set the position, or select the actual region, which I'm going to do right now. So I'm going to click select region, and then I'm going to click and drag over the area that my start menu is going to be over here on the left-hand side. So when I've done that quick selection, I go into my capture state, and I can capture that specific area of my screen. It's really, really helpful to have that repetitive screen section. But there's other things I want to do, and that is to make that process a little bit more automatic. And to make that style of capture, as well as many other styles, we have what are called presets. And presets are found here on the bottom of the capture window underneath the preset button. Presets are a set of defined attributes that are remembered for different capture types. For example, one of the things we want to be able to do is repeatedly make that region capture. And I can do that by creating a preset that's specific to that area of the screen. So I can simply click this plus button to get a drop-down option to create a new preset. And from here, I can build out the preset based on the parameters I'd like. So let's see here. I want to make it a image capture. Pull that back over here, sorry. I want to make sure it's a region capture with a fixed region that I select, okay, which is going to be this section over here. Okay. And then I want to I can add effects at this point, where if I maybe want to add a nice colored border to it, I can use the gear icon to do that as well. Maybe I want a nice little purple bluish border to it. I can determine whether or not I want it shared anywhere right away, or if I want it to preview in the editor, capture to clipboard, and so on and so forth. For me, I know that when I click on and off of the Windows menu, If I click anywhere else on the screen, the Windows menu disappears. So in order to combat that, I actually am going to turn on the time delay. And the time delay for me is going to be just a 5-second countdown, which means that when I start this capture type based on this preset, it's going to give me a 5-second countdown in the corner, which allows me to open up the start menu and make that capture type. When I have my preset set up exactly the way I want, I click Save Preset, and it gives me a image with effect preset, which isn't that helpful. So I'm actually going to rename this as image region capture, and then I'm going to put a 5 at the end so that I know that there's a 5-second delay on it. Once I've done this, and with any type of preset, there's a couple things you can do from here. One, I can click on it like I just did there, and you kind of see that animation where it transfers all the information up to the capture window so that I can hit the capture button. I can click the red icon to the left of it to start the capture right here from the presets area, but more often than not, people set their own hotkeys to start that capture. So I can click in the add hotkey area and do a keyboard shortcut. Let's go with Control Shift K. When I click on Control Shift K, I now have a keyboard shortcut that's directly tied to this region capture, the specific preset. And the preset is so helpful because I can set keyboard shortcuts to various sets of them and have them delivered wherever I want, shared to wherever I want, so that I don't have to go in and recreate that every time. The value of the presets, if I'm working with a team, is that if I use the gear to the right of the preset itself, I can actually edit it, rename it, but I can also export it and share it with someone else who's using Snagit so that we have the same capture type. So let's start this capture. We're going to click the red record button, and I'm getting that countdown in the corner. I open up my Windows button, and just like that, Snagit has made a capture of that region of the screen, just like I asked it to. It's very, very helpful, very, very repetitive. So if I went Control Shift K, open up the Windows thing, maybe I click an access button, it'll capture everything based on how I had it exposed at that moment. Very, very helpful tool to create those repetitive style captures. If I wanted something in a specific size, I could do that as well. Border, colors, all those sorts of things are available to us. So presets, super, super helpful. One thing I do want to mention is there is the ability within the preset to define a share destination. And this one's pretty helpful. I actually have a couple of them here. Like this one says green border word. What that is, if I go into the gear icon and click edit, is I have a preset to not only give me a region selection, so I can click and drag over an area. I have a border set up to it. In this case, I called it a green border, and I'm actually sharing it directly to Word and into an email. And because I already defined share destinations, I actually toggle off the preview and editor button. All that means is it's not going to also open the editor for Snagit so that I can skip that step if I don't necessarily need it right away. In the editors where you may annotate the image or make some edits to it. But if I'm doing just quick captures, just basic capture types that don't require any sort of editing, I can speed up my entire process by bypassing the editor and just sending it right to where I want. So for example, if I do this capture type, we'll do something simple like capturing the logo here on my screen. As soon as I let go, Snagit's already captured it, and it's already sending it to Word and to a blank email. It's right here in the body of the email, and then right here, it's in the new Word document as well. So all at once, I was able to send it 2 different places and continue on with my day. I don't have to worry about opening Snagit, going in through the editor. I was able to do that all through a preset. No, thank you, Word. I don't need to save that. So in terms of presets, that's how you can utilize those. And you can have a plethora of presets available to you. They can be reordered just the same. So if I use this orange one more often, I can reorder it up and down. I can move things around as I see fit. Okay. So at this point, Ryan, I'm going to move on to the next thing, which is talking about keeping consistent markup styles between projects or across team members, unless you or any of the other people helping me out from TechSmith are fielding questions around presets.
Not quite on presets, but on something you've covered already. Jacqueline had a quick question about the time delay you set up.
Yes.
He said, does that work for all capture types? And so I thought just for clarity, I'd let you cover that question.
Sure. So I'm going to actually turn off the image and go to all-in-one capture and shut my presets. This is the majority of how I utilize Snagit. I have mine set to the all-in-one capture all the time. And there is a 5-second delay option in all-in-one. There's a 5-second time delay available in the image capture. In the video, there isn't, because you actually have control over when you start and stop the recording, and then you can make subtle edits to it. So I would say in terms of image capture, yes, you can set 5-second delays for those. The one is built in as a 5-second delay. For images, you actually have some options here. I can set it up on intervals, I can set it up on a schedule, or I can change the delays themselves. But at its very basic level, a 5-second delay is the most common. In fact, I use this 5-second delay if I'm opening cascading menus in, say, a browser or a program where you click on the drop-down menu and then you go over in an arrow. Anywhere where if I moved my mouse or clicked away, I would lose all of that functionality.
Perfect. And then one more question I'm seeing right now, and that is actually coming from Lori and from Greg. They're wondering, when you set a preset to go to Word, will it always open a new document, or can you have it insert into an existing document?
Yep, so that's a great question, and we can test that theory out right now. So I'm going to actually open up Word so that I have it here. And then I'm going to open another Word document. So I've got document 2 and document 3 open. I am going to put my cursor in document 3, and I'm going to go back to Snagit and use the preset to capture a green border in Word. Let's just grab this little section of Word. What'll happen is when I make that selection, Snagit will actually drop the image in whatever the last document you had open was and wherever your cursor is placed. So this means if I'm working through a process and creating, I've also got it opening in an email. I forgot, I put that down there. So wherever your cursor is in the most recently accessed document is where it'll put the image. So most people send an image in, they might type some text here, and then wherever I place my cursor, the next time I take that same capture, it'll drop it in there. If I do not have Word open, Snagit will automatically open a brand new Word document and insert it at the top. And you should know once they're dropped into these documents, they do act like normal images. You can reposition them, move them around, resize them, and so on and so forth.
Okay, and while you were talking about that, Jason, we got another question from Pedro.
Okay.
Pedro wants to know, do I have to have Snagit open for the hotkeys to work?
Do you have to have Snagit open for the hotkeys to work? So for example, I have a global hotkey of print screen to open Snagit. If I close the capture window and I make sure the editor is closed and I close Snagit entirely out of my systems tray, so it's not technically open. If I hit my print screen button, Snagit will not run. Same with your shortcuts. You at least have to have the capture window running. By default, Snagit actually will start when you start your Windows machine. So if it's running in the background, like mine is now, because I see the red Snagit there, and it pops up on my screen, if I hit the print screen button, I have my crosshairs available to me, and I'm ready to make my capture. The couple things that people may not realize as well is on the Windows side, your capture window is this floating window. If you're on a Mac side, it's anchored to your menu bar up here at the top. But there is one other thing where if you don't want to have the capture window open all the time like this, if you go into the view menu, there is an option called one click. And if I click on that, one click actually hides itself off the top or wherever you place it on your screen, where if you hover over with your mouse, you have access to Snagit, you have access to the editor, to your preset list as well, and some settings. So you could have it open all the time, but not have that capture window exposed. So that may be a way to help out with that. But Snagit has to be running for the capture to work. And all that has to be running is this, the capture window. It doesn't have to be up and in front, but it has to be open.
Okay. Well, I think that handles all the questions as they relate to the presets, so I think we can move on.
All right, great. So the next thing we're going to talk about, we're going to open up our editor, is we're going to talk about, like I said, keeping consistent markup styles between your projects or across team members. And that's by using quick styles. So I'm actually going to go into my library and just grab an image here. So quick styles are the style of annotations that are available as you walk through various different tool types. So if I click on the arrow tool up here at the top, the quick styles are over here on the right. They have some default types based on these 4 colors here underneath the basic theme, red, purple, green, and yellow. Now you're not locked into those colors because you do have your tool properties below where you can change the color and style as you wish. You have a couple of different actual arrow styles. This is a solid one. This one's broken. This one's broken with a head and a tail to the arrow itself. But the quick styles allow you to quickly grab a style and add it to your image. If you have that image or the style of the tool that you've selected and you make a change to it, like for example, maybe I don't want purple here, maybe I want this pink color. If I've made that change, that also shows up at the bottom of that quick style list. And if I click the little plus button, I can add that particular style that I just created to my quick styles so it's available whenever I want it. And because the developers were super friendly, they actually made this whole area customizable. So if I think I'm going to use this pink arrow all the time, not only can I drag it into position wherever I want it over here in my quick styles, but I can also click the little star to add it to my favorites menu. So that pink arrow is always available to me at any moment in time. However, there is some needs within companies to stay consistent with their colors. Like if everyone in your group is using Snagit, they have complete control over the color and the style and whatnot. You can actually create something called a theme, which allows you to have a consistent colorway. What does that mean? Well, let me show you. In my library, I have a fake color style guide here. And we are going to create a theme based on, let's see here. We're going to create it based on the company called Storit, which is not a real company, but it's one we made up. So above the quick styles, you have this drop-down menu called themes. And underneath that, most people, when you install Snagit for the first time, will have one called basic, and will have one called urban. If I click on urban, you'll see it's a different style of colors. And no matter what theme you have chosen, if you move through the different tools in your toolbar, that color way based on the theme stays consistent. Well, it'd
Hey,
be really yeah.
hey, we got a couple questions coming in about that sidebar. It's closed for people and they don't know how to open it. Can you show that real quickly?
Oh yeah, if they don't see their quick styles bar, on the bottom right hand side, there is a button that says properties. All you need to do is click on the properties and it will open and close that drawer for you, or at least it should. If you see this effects or if you see properties, this is what you want to have available to you. If it's not opening up, you will want to have some sort of image on your screen or go to File, New Image to have something on your canvas so that you can make edits to it. Hopefully that answers that question for you.
Yep, thank you so much.
You bet. You bet. So in order to create a theme based on the colors that you want, it's super easy to do. In fact, this is one of my favorite things in Snagit to do on a regular basis. What you would do is come up to the Themes drop-down menu and click on New Theme. And when you click on that, you have the ability to create a theme. First, you would name it. So in this case, we're going to name it based on the fake company here, Storit. We're going to call this one Storit. And then I can choose the colors I need. Now, not everyone's going to have a style guide available to them. Style guides typically have the actual color examples and then the CMYK colors and the hex codes and the RGB. I'm not a designer, and I need this to be super simple to get those colors. And we have made it super simple to grab those colors. Here's how you do it. First, you're going to select the first primary color by clicking on this drop-down menu, which exposes the entire color wheel to you, where if you have the hex code, you could put it in there. If you have the RGB code, you can put it in there, but I'm not a designer. So we use this tool. This is the eyedropper tool. And if I select that eyedropper and drag it over to the color I want to acquire, I simply click on it, and I now have that color as part of my theme. And then I just hit the plus button and repeat that process for every color that I want in my theme. So we'll grab these first 3 colors at the top, which was 2 different style purples and a white. And then we'll even grab these secondary colors, which look like a gray scale of some sort. It's definitely not black. And then a lighter gray scale from there. Once I have my colors in the theme the way I want it, I simply hit the create button, and I now have a drop-down theme option for that new company. Store it. It's super helpful to have. And now, just like before, as we switch different tools, that same color scheme stays with those all the way through. So you could create a theme based on your colors. In fact, if you don't have a style guide, which I use as a little cheater way to do this in the editor, you could, make Snagit less than full screen and maybe pull up, oh, I don't know, a web page, like perhaps TechSmiths. And I could go through and create a colorway for different products. Like here is the Snagit page, which has the Snagit green and our orange colors. I could use the Snagit color picker and grab those colors as well. Key thing about themes is once you've got them on your system, they're there and available for you. But just like with your presets, you can share these themes with other members of your company by using the drop-down menu and choosing the gear next to one you might want to share. Like we just created this store IT one. If I click on that, I can hit export and it creates a .snag theme file, which is this tiny little file that can be emailed to people. And as long as they have a version of Snagit that supports themes, they would double click on it and be able to import that into their system. Let's delete this one for right now and pretend that I have been sent a theme from one of my coworkers. So underneath my drop-down menu, I have basic, data, international, priority, and urban. If I click on the import option and navigate to a snag theme file like I have here, and this one's called Fidelity Holdings, which is a generic company we use for training as well, and I click open, it adds that theme to Snagit for me as well, so that I can use that for different trainings. And the Fidelity Holdings ones happens to be an orange and gray stylistic choice one. So as we go through these different tools, that colorway is available to me. This way, if I'm the one who's responsible creating it, I can create that and share it with my team, and then all of a sudden everybody can be on brand with any images they're using in Snagit where they use some sort of call out. And if you're sharing these with clients or sending them to customers, it always is on brand and always looks nice and clean. Very, very helpful, very simple to do. I love using themes. All right. Before I move on to the next one, take a quick pause for questions about themes or anything else we've covered.
Hi, Jason. Yeah, I am still sorting through. I hopped in and helped with a couple of questions. So let me know if you've already covered this, but we are getting a couple of questions on how to share your themes. Did you cover that yet?
I did, but we can do it. We'll pretend we're doing it right now. If I go back into this Data International theme, which has a little bit more of the pastel color look as over here. If I want to share this with someone, like perhaps I want to share it with Ryan, if I want to share it with you, I would click on the gear icon to the right of it, choose export, which then creates a .snag theme file, and I would have it named based on the theme and put it wherever I can find it later on. In this case, it's going to be on my desktop. And then because it's such a small file type, I could then share that Snag theme with someone else. And then all the people have to do is when they open Snagit, they can either double click on the Snag theme file and it'll open up Snagit with that theme available, or they can come in here to the drop-down menu and choose import. Yep.
Okay, and I got another question here too regarding themes. Obviously, you can add one theme to any document, but we have a couple of people asking, like, what if I've got a couple of themes and I want to incorporate them all into one document? Pretty easy to do, right?
Sure. So if we had perhaps this image right here, and I wanted to add this orange square to my image, which I've done right here, I can switch to another theme, like perhaps this priority, and use this maroon color and make the selection over here. You're not restricted to what you're putting on one image or on one document. This just makes it easy for quick and consistent color ways. The reason I use themes is so I don't have to think about the colors. If I expose, say, just the basic ones, I know those are the colors that I want to use. Of course, I have control over them, but when I'm making 15, 20, 30 captures a day where they have annotations of some sort, I don't want to have to guess. I just want to be able to quickly grab a color and know that it's on brand. That's the primary use case for themes.
Okay, and Lori is asking, can I change other things than colors when it comes to themes? from shapes to outlines to weights, etc. If you can cover that quickly.
So themes are primarily based on, as it stands right now, are based on colorways. That's how themes are set up. If you have perhaps a theme that you'd like to use, in this case, let's go back to that Data International colorway. I have these tools exposed, but if I make a change to one and I want to keep that on a regular basis for regular use, so let's say this yellow arrow, I'm going to use the star method, and maybe this blue one, and maybe this orange dotted one. If I click stars and make them favorited, I now have those available to me in my favorites menu. If I make any changes otherwise, like let's say with this orange one, I do not want a shadow, I deselect the shadow option. Now that's here in my quick styles. I add it with the plus button. I favorite that one as well. And now I've got two versions of that same arrow. I have the shadowed version and I have the non-shadowed version. So I can make changes to any one of those quick styles that I want, and then to have them ready for use later on, I simply favorite them so they're added to my favorites library for later on. Good
Perfect.
question.
And you just headed off a couple other questions. So
Cool.
I think we are ready to move on.
All right, great. The last thing I want to cover for this section of it, which is, those get faster repetitive capture types, is the idea of grabbing text from images on the web. So Snagit has the ability to grab text from web images. For example, if I wanted to capture this on the, well, let's make this a little more appropriate. Let's go to the Snagit page as opposed to our Camtasia page. And I wanted to go down and capture some text, like for example, create visual instructions. I can start a basic capture, which for me is just with my print screen button. And I click and drag over this area of my screen. I can take an image and have that on my canvas. And then I can right click on this image and choose grab text. And it's going to use OCR, ocular character recognition. And it's going to go in and grab all the text from that image and make it available to me. So I now can copy this all and paste it in different places. This happens a lot when I have images shared with me from, even here at TechSmith, there are developers that have access to programs that I don't have as a non-developer, and they may take screenshots, yet I need to extract the text because it's important to enter into a document or maybe send in a internal chat messenger or anything like that. I can take a quick grab with Snagit and extract the text and copy it and send it over and paste it as well. If I have an existing image, like I said, I can either right click on it and grab all the text, or I can even be more specific and use the selection tool and select just a little section of an image and grab just the text from that area so that it's not trying to grab everything. So this is showing me all the color codes and stuff like that. What's really interesting about the grab text feature is that if I used my capture window and I wanted to set up a preset that had capture or grab text in it, I could grab that image, choose say a region capture or a grab text selection, and I could already have it. I'm not going to add any effects to the grab text. I'm also not going to share it right away, but I might, for my sake, copy it to clipboard. And if I hit capture, I can go through and grab something that's got text on it. So let's go ahead and pull up this document here. I'll pull out of that capture type because there wasn't any text on that screen. I'm going to grab a section of this screen using that same capture type with the grab text selection made. And I'm going to wait for my 5-second timer to go to get myself ready. And then using that region capture, I could capture this section of the screen. And when I let go, it brings it right into the editor and completes that grab text process. So not only do I have all 3 sections of this images text available to me, I did it all with one single click of the button. So grab text is a super, super powerful thing. If I'm doing it on a regular basis and I need to document that or keep it somewhere, I can actually go through and make some specific changes. So I'm going to turn off the time delay. Maybe I want to not only do a grab text, but I also want to automatically share it to somewhere as well. I could share it to a Word document, an email, something like that to make it easy for me to use later on. So Very, very powerful tool as well to use grab text when you have a document or an image that you need the text out of, but you might not have access to the original file to be able to pull that out. Okay. All right. We're going to move into the second part of today's webinar, and then we'll still have time for questions. And the second part was, we started with repetitive capture tasks. The second thing is keeping track of your capture. So we've done this just tiny little bits here in the editor, and that is using one of two different sections. Most of you will know that this at the bottom is your recents tray. So this is going to show all the captures you've made. I think it's your last 20 captures or so. They're available to you. They have, you can click on any one of them and go back in and edit them. Like maybe I didn't want both of those arrows in there, so I can click on them and delete them. Maybe this pink arrow doesn't belong. As long as it's still in Snagit, it is in an editable state. The thing most people don't know about, for some reason or another, is the library. And if I click on the library button, which is either here at the end of your recent captures tray or more commonly accessed from the upper left-hand corner of the editor, the library is actually a running collection of all the captures you've made on a particular machine. This is my training machine, so it's kind of lightweight right now for the types of images and capture types that I have on this machine. As a matter of fact, in the upper left-hand corner, I can see that I have 71 images. I've got 7 videos, 3 animated GIFs. It gives me information like the year it was captured. Also, it does a good job of the application it was captured in. But there are some things in here that make my life a lot easier, and that includes the ability to add metadata or tags to an image. For example, let's click on the editor button at the top here and go back to my editor screen. And this kind of looks like a Facebook mockup page. Well, maybe I want to go back through and find that, because in my actual library, I have over 10,000 images. In my training library, I only have 71, but tags are still helpful. Here's how you add and tag to an image. Simply select the image that you want to tag and click on the tag button in the lower left-hand corner. And when I click on that, I have a list of any tags I may have used, but I could create my own tag group at the top. So maybe I'm going to put FB for Facebook. Maybe I'm going to spell out Facebook. Maybe I'm going to put social media, whatever I want to help me find that image later, maybe with the caps lock not on. So now I've applied these 3 tags, FB, Facebook, and social media. Well, what makes it helpful is when I go into my library, instead of scrolling through the potentially hundreds or thousands of images, I can either go to my tag list and find those tags, like we just created the FB one, and click on it and it'll expose that. Or I can use the search bar at the top and type in any of the other tags as well. So Facebook, it found those images. In fact, there's another one tagged with Facebook, which is a generic interface for it based on simplified user graphics, user interface, a SUI image. So the library has the ability to allow you to meta tag data into an image so you can find it easily later. Now, some people do this from the library itself. So if I clicked on my image section of my library and exposed all my images, I can actually right-click on any image. Like here's some avatars of me. I look silly, but that's me. I can right-click on one, and I can, or excuse me, I can just click on one itself, like this one right here, and I can still tag it here in the library. So I can add, Jason, cartoon, maybe avatar, and now I've got this data attached based on these tags, so that later on I can easily find an image in my library. It's easy to create an image with Snagit. You can grab an image, you can capture an image and annotate it, but sometimes you have one that you're going to use on a regular basis. At TechSmith, we happen to have multiple buildings on our campus, and sometimes we have meetings with other people, and it's easy to forget how to get to their offices. So we actually have maps that we use, and we tag those with maps so people can easily find our offices later. Ryan, did you happen to have a question?
Nope.
Oh, cool. No worries. All right, so yeah, being able to tag images both in the editor and the library is great for being able to come back into a project or an image and either annotate it further or share it with others easily. The other thing that's helpful is you can actually find other pieces of metadata, like I said. So if I wanted to find out all the captures I made in 2020 in February, here's the only capture I made. Apparently a image of a PDF Acrobat logo, but I can go through and find those very quickly based on these drop-down menus to be able to search out my content very quickly. Yep. You can sort it based on names and sizes. There's a lot of functionality here within the library that a lot of people may not know about. So if I want to find out what my biggest file size is in here, I can do that here. Dates, when it was last modified, the type, its dimensions, which is also helpful. Like, in fact, I have the Snagit icon here in my library. And if I need a small version or a large version, I can quickly find those there. Well, in a nutshell, Ryan, that is what we wanted to talk about today with getting faster with Snagit. So largely we covered two major headings. One, repetitive capture tasks. We talked about capturing the same size area and look for an image by using a preset to open a specific region of your screen. And we talked about setting up presets and different effects. Well, we talked about keeping consistent markup styles between projects or across team members by not only showing quick styles, but showing how to create and share and import different Snag theme files or themes within Snagit. We also showed off the ability to grab text from an image that you've either captured in Snagit or in a capture type when you're taking it right away. And then I like to show the difference between your library and your recents tray. And there's actually one more thing. It's not even on my list of stuff I wanted to cover today, but it just came up. Often people are getting new computers at work or at home, and they don't want to lose their Snagit library. Well, there's an easy way to transfer your library from Snagit from one machine to another. And that is by going into your editor preferences underneath the edit menu. And there's a tab across the top called library. When you click on that, at the bottom, it shows where your library location is. And usually it's sitting not in a readily accessible place to kind of keep your images captures protected and safe from you. But you can very easily change that location if you'd like, or more often, create a backup. This happens whenever I get a new machine for work. I create a backup. I save that library somewhere where it's accessible to me, maybe on a shared cloud folder or on an external hard drive. And then when I install Snagit on the brand new machine and get it up and running, I simply come back to the same menu and choose Restore Backup. And I choose that that saved location of my backup file. And within minutes, I am back up and running in the exact same spot I left Snagit before, with a fully functioned, fully baked metadata library available to me. Super helpful, easy to do. And something to be in a good habit in if you have a lot of sensitive captures that you want to make sure you don't lose for any reason whatsoever, just to back that library up occasionally.
So Jason, yeah, you actually headed off a couple of questions, and already a lot of people saying thank you for showing that feature off.
Sure, absolutely.
One of the people followed up, Lori asked, when I share my library or create a new backup so I can move my library, do the tags get saved with it?
Yes, the metadata travels with it. That is correct.
Perfect. So now we'll kind of get into the questions as they came, if you're ready for them, Jason. And
let's do it.
Got one from right before we transitioned about, excuse me, about grab text. When you use grab text, Amanda wants to know, does it strip the formatting? Like, for example, Notepad?
Mm-hmm. It does its best job to keep the formatting. It's possible on a website, if that's where you're capturing from or from someone else's program or document, that the font that was used is not something that's available on your machine. This happens a lot when perhaps someone on a Windows machine like me captures something that was created on a Mac machine, and there's a couple of fonts that are specific to each platform. So it does its best job to keep the formatting. So if I went in here and did a capture of this content right here, brought that into the editor and chose grab text, it does a pretty good job of matching that. The sizing looks about the same. The bold style as opposed to normal and bold was kept. It does a pretty good job of that. You'll also see this if you make a small selection in, say, like a spreadsheet. It does a pretty good job of keeping the column formatting as best it can. This is one of the features in Snagit that we're constantly looking at and constantly looking to make even more powerful with each iteration. So I would definitely try this feature out, but long story short, it does its best job keeping the formatting as it stands, including sometimes colors and bullet points and all that kind of stuff.
Perfect. So now we'll hop into the library and questions we got regarding that.
Sure.
Liz is asking, can you tag multiple files at the same time?
So let's say I select this logo and I use my shift key to grab all of these at the same time. If I click tag and I choose logo and then maybe logos, when I click on that and I go into just a regular selection style and I choose that tag, logo, it does in fact allow you to tag multiple things at once. That's really actually pretty helpful because I have a series of images here in the library that I use for training purposes. These are all Snagit logos. It'd be really helpful if I could select all of them and label them all Snagit, TechSmith, and then maybe I would call them icons. And now with those tags in place, I can very quickly grab any one of those metadata tags and have just those pieces show up. No one has ever asked that question before. Great question. Thank you.
Yeah. And then another question about tagging is a couple of people are asking if you could demonstrate, once they've tagged a bunch of stuff, how do they delete tags if they no longer want that tag associated with that image?
Sure. So if I grab, let's say, that avatar tag, one that I tagged with the word avatar, if I select the image and choose the tag option again, I simply need to delete the one that I don't want by right-clicking on it. So now if I delete the word Jason and maybe delete the word avatar, now the only tag that comes up with that is the one that I've left. In fact, the avatar tag is no longer here because that was the only item that I tagged with that. As another example, here's the one I tagged called logos. If I selected just these 6 and I chose the tag option and removed logos, now when I click on logos again, instead of 10, there is now 4 because I've removed those tags from that image.
Great. And we'll stick with the deleting theme. Joel says, I have almost 10,000 images in my library. Is there an efficient way to delete a bunch of images that are no longer needed to conserve space?
So some people use tagging for that purpose, right? For example, when I switched machines recently, I went through and tagged everything from previous years with the word old or archive. So I could go in here to, let's say, everything from March of 2019, which happens to be Snagit logos. I could select all of them like we were just doing and tag it with one particular tag. And then I can easily go in and click that tag and delete them. If I wanted to pull something out of my library, like let's go on the theme of deleting, if we wanted to get rid of any of the ones we captured today, like let's take this one and this one and this one. Right clicking on it, there is 2 options. One that says remove from library, then it's just not visible in your library anymore. There is metadata there somewhere for us to recover it if you ever need to, but there is a delete option. And when you click delete, it asks you to be very, very sure. Now, if I click delete, those images are gone forever. As part of that conversation, and this comes up a lot too, Ryan, is if you're in the editor and you've got your images down here in the recents tray, a lot of people see these black X's in the upper right-hand corners. If I click on this X, like this is the, well, we'll do one that I captured, this create visual instructions. If I click on the X, it is removed from my recents tray, but it is still in my library as an image I captured because I did not delete it. I simply removed it from the tray just to kind of clean up my recents tray. But as far as efficient ways to delete multiple items, I go through and use either the metadata that's built into it, like dates, or like I have no idea why I have something captured from, the Edge content process is what Windows uses for the start menu. I could just click on any of the tags here, pull those things up, and make a selection of those and delete them that way. That's actually how I would do it, especially when you've got a significant large number of captures like you were describing.
Okay. So, Jason, a couple of questions are continuing to come in, but most of them appear to be about the editor and things that this webinar isn't really geared towards. So, what
Okay.
I'd like to do is take some time and show everybody some other resources they'll have so that they can get those answers in a different avenue.
Sure.
So first, as you pulled up, is our webinars page at techsmith.com/webinars. This is where everybody can find all of our webinars that are upcoming and the different topics for each webinar. We've even got recordings of our Getting Started With series up there. A
Hmm.
lot of questions about the editor. You guys are going to be interested in the, if Jason will scroll a little further, we've got work with images like a pro. And that's where you can really learn a lot about combining images and annotations and all that stuff. So I would highly recommend you sign up for that one. We also have tutorial pages for anybody who wants to dive in themselves and look at the tutorials. And those are, there we go. Those are broken up by product and then by course. So you can go into any product you want and really just dive into what you specifically want to learn. So Jason, I think that wraps us up for today. I do want to remind everybody that this was a deeper dive into getting faster. So like I said, there are things we didn't touch on today. But the biggest piece of advice I can give anybody is to get in there and play around. Control Z works. You can undo anything you've done, and it's a pretty intuitive software. So at any point, you just click on some buttons and just see how different features work for you. As I mentioned earlier, you will receive an email with a recording later today, and that email will also include some other resources that we just touched on, as well as links to our YouTube series and other resources that will really help you as you continue on your journey. Other than that, we appreciate you all coming today, and we hope to see you at future webinars. Have a great day.